Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever in the beautiful world you are. I hope you are well and happy and smiling because it's wonderful Wednesday. We don't have Jessie today, as we said last week. Jessie is away this week. We'll have her back next week. So today we have the beautiful Lira Nikolaev, who we spoke to close to 2 weeks ago now. Lira is a former Russian child soldier who was trained to be a double agent by the Russians as a child. And very, very interesting conversation we had there. So for those of you who haven't watched Lira's previous interview with us, I highly recommend that you do. I'm going to ask Morne, who's in the back room, thank you, Morne, to maybe put the link in there just for those of you who might not have caught it yet, because it's extremely interesting. Anyway, Lira, I'm so happy to have you back again. How are you, beautiful lady? Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa.
Thank you. I am doing well. Well, I wanted to mention yesterday I couldn't sleep at night. Woke up at 4 a.m. and God had me praying for the people in the Turkish earthquake. And as I was praying, Holy Spirit said, look up the seat of Satan. And the seat of Satan, that amazing, huge altar that they built, it's huge. And back in the 1800s, an archaeologist took it apart, took it piece by piece to Berlin Museum. And it has been there ever since. And for the last 20 plus years, the country was asking them to get it back to us, give it back to us. It's ours. It's from our land, right? And they would not give it back all this time, decades. So when I looked up the article, I finally did come across the article. It was saying that a German, somebody who worked at the museum, was suggesting to the public that they did give Turkey back this altar of Satan. And within days or hours of posting that article, the earthquake happened. Like, here comes Satan's throne, and here's the earthquake. All of these lives that have been taken. It's just bizarre. And then I started in the morning, I began reading some of the articles about it. And I've noticed, like, every other paragraph, they were mentioning children, how they're saving children. Not as much other people, but when it came to, hey, we got the 5-year-old, we got the 14-year-old, children. And then it's the WHO who's coming up, the World Health Organization. And they're saying, yeah, we've got the ships ready to take them, to safety. But when it comes to child sex trafficking, they're after the children. If there's any kind of disaster, they're going to go after the children. And that's a worrisome, it's sad. Pray for them, please. Pray for the children,
Yes,
for God to protect the children.
Okay, I want to just get straight. So are you saying that the Germans have sent the Turks back their altar? Is that what happens?
That's what the article was suggesting. They did not give any details. They were just suggesting it. And that's enough. It lines up. The Bible tells us that in the Revelation, that the seed of Satan is there in Pergamon. Right there. And here comes the huge earthquake.
How interesting. There are so many interesting things happening nowadays, I have to tell you, and lots behind the scenes as well, We're speaking to people behind the scenes, lots of little miracles happening every day as well, because we have to understand we're living in a world of polarity. So when these awful things occur on the one side, on the other side, there's a lot of good happening as well. So let's never, lose focus on that when these things are happening. And as you say, Lira, we need to pray for these kids because, as we know now, any kind of a natural disaster or something like this, and where there's kids, the traffickers are there. And we have to be so vigilant. So please just be aware of that. Pray for the kids. Speak to the people if you know anyone there. Just let people be aware. Anyway, okay, so before we move on today's to Russian, to deprogramming from the Russian sorcery, basically, maybe you want to just give us a little bit of a recap on who you are last week, just your beginnings, how you got into this, and where you're at now.
I was hospitalized when I was 6 because I was having stomach pains after Chernobyl, the radiation. Lots of kids had lots of problems. And in this hospital, I was only there for 2 weeks. We were kept under the lock. There was many shots day after day, twice a day, blood taken. And then the programming that I remembered later, where they put the electrodes on our body and they projected some scenes on the screen on the wall. There was 2 different times, and then I was just once I remembered being in a bed where it was just me in the room. That again, electrodes, the station where with all the computer screens, a bunch of them, and then the tile on the walls. And when I was remodeling my bathroom, I had to choose the tile, and that's what triggered it, just the tile. And then about the same time. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, bringing up all those old memories. Yes.
Yes, including about the same time, Holy Spirit led me to watch some videos and testimonies of other survivors and have prayers like Dan Duval and Amanda Bice, where they were asking God to open our memories, open our amygdala to remember things, for the memories to start coming. And I was also praying for the Spirit of truth to be upon me. All of a sudden, I wanted to know the truth. And it's layer by layer by layer, day after day, every day for almost 2 years, a year and a half, like diligently praying about it, looking into it, remembering it. It was a long, long journey, but I started remembering, seeing things, understanding why my brain, like 1 minute I'm happy, the next minute I'm weeping, 1 minute I'm seducing somebody, another minute I'm killing them. It's just like not normal to experience all of those in one day, and my life outside is perfectly normal. So they basically use your body. They will, Bible says in Revelation in the last days in the Babylon system that they sell souls. They sell and trade slaves, humans, and then they sell your soul to other people. Your soul is made of layers. Your soul it comes from God the Father himself. That's where the energy is. That's where the light is. Demons don't have light. They want that light. So with this sorcery, of course, you're tapped into all those dark powers. They want that soul. They want that innocent blood. And in children, it's there. Your mind has not been tainted. So that's what they are after. And that's why there was quite a bit of us in that hospital, and they were just going to take our brain. They're going to separate our brain with torture, which God did not reveal to me all the torture that they've done. So they create these altars, just like the verse in Ecclesiastes said, the gold bowl. They'll create the silver cord, which, let me go back a little bit. One of the memories that I had, or revelations I had, me laying on that bed, and all of a sudden I see this big black cord going from where I was at near Ukraine, Moldova area to Moscow. And in this black cord coming out of my solar plexus, in this black cord, Michael, the angel, came by with his big sword. He cut it all off, severed it. And as soon as he severed it, I saw a bunch of lasers, silver cords, if you will, shooting towards Moscow. And I looked at Jesus. I'm like, wait, what about these? Like, you got to take care of them too. And Jesus said, I will turn the bad into good. And that's when my journey started. So then I had to untangle all of those silver cords that were attached to me. And I knew right away that each cord was a different avatar, if you will. And when it comes to avatars, it's basically the easiest, simplest way I can explain to people the way they were doing is, they also cut my hair in the hospital a little bit, because your essence is also in your hair. Your DNA is in your hair. And we can touch on that also. So our blood, our essence, it's like baking sourdough bread. You need that starter. And that's what they get from you with your blood, or with your hair, mainly blood. Okay, so they have the starter. Now you need to start adding ingredients, right? Flour, sugar, salt, whatever. And that would be the different powers, higher powers, the demonic powers. The Bible talks about it. And they will make pacts, deals, treaties, legal treaties with those demons, those big powers, by giving them blood, by all of those wars that have happened in Russia, Ukraine specifically.
Who's they? When you say they, who is they? Who makes pacts with the demonic
In my
forces?
right, for me, it would have been the Russians. Uh, at that time, it was all USSR. It didn't matter whether it was Ukraine, Moldova. It was, for me, it was all USSR. It was all Russia, right? It didn't matter.
Okay.
So it was, but they were doing it on Ukrainian, Moldovan soil, and that's where a great deal of bloodshed is there. Actually, Mornay, there's one of the images of the eternal flame at the end. There's a big bowl and a statue next to it. It's this huge, and every country has eternal flame, right? We've seen it. You've got the soldiers who have passed. Now we're going to make this one monument for them, and it's that eternal flame. And the flame, that's where it's a vehicle for them, for the evil spirits. Well, even for God too, actually, because Satan steals everything from God. So, Jesus is going to come back with flames. Isaiah and Elisha was taken up. Keep going, Mornay. It's towards the end. Elisha was taken up to heaven in flames, in the chariot of flames. So they're using this flame to keep going. Yeah, right there. Okay. If you look on the left, lower left corner, yeah, that's for the eternal flame. It's humongous. Huge.
Wow.
And the reason for that, it's a portal, it's a vehicle, it's like an elevator, taking the souls that passed, all their blood that's in the land, they're basically funneling it into this one bowl, right? So from there, they're going to funnel it to the other deities, the powers, principalities, force of the air. But they use those, look, and there's, from different parts of the world. I've got pictures there. They're from all over, but you will always have a structure somewhere on the side where they do the rituals, and then you will also have a cemetery somewhere not too far away. Well, they will also do they want the souls that are in the ground, all the iniquity that's on them with them. We're going to funnel it through this flame. Basically, that's what's happening there.
Wow.
And speaking of that, be careful of the oaths that you take. In 4th grade, we had to take an oath that we're communists. After you take the oath, you wear this little thing with Lenin on it. But that place where we took the oath was, again, near that eternal flame. And we're children, right? We're 9 years old, 4th grade. We don't know what we're saying, but essentially we're saying that we are committing ourselves to this communist party. Like, I had to cut myself off from that, to divorce myself from that. And just like if you got Freemasonry in your background, you don't know what your great-great-great-grandfather sold you into that system. You have to do some research. Listen to the Holy Spirit. He'll tell you what to cut yourself from. But that was one of them, anyhow. So they want the Russians have all of this iniquity that they have tapped into, that they have offered to the demons, to the powers. It's not just the demons, it's the powers of the air. They're quite a bit bigger, more powerful, more demons under them. And now they have this permission, this legal right to, hey, I've got a soul for you here. She's got spiritual gifts, which you like, give us some of your power. We're going to marry together, and then we're going to do more evil. Basically, that's what it ends up being. So, and they create many different parts because your brain can only carry one thought at a time. So for every spiritual gift you have, for every job that they want you to do, they will create a different altar. Okay. Let me see, soul. So, okay, with the sourdough bread, It's very simple. You got the starter, you've got the blood, you have the ingredients, you have different, let's say I want some Nike, I want Medusa, I want Atlas, Zeus in there. All right, because of their different powers. If you know your mythology, all of them had various powers. And for whatever job they want that avatar to be, that's it. So then you let the dough mingle, cook, rise a little bit. That's like the training time when they do with you. For every avatar, they will train you for that specific job. And then you put the bread into some kind of a mold, right? That's the avatar. It doesn't matter what avatar they create for you, whether, for me, it was a couple of water parts, and one could go into space, some on land. And there you go, you've got the avatars. And now that you have these, oh, something else. They can take these little codes that they create. It's in the computer, but they can put different codes into one avatar, several codes into one avatar, into my story, by the way, is quite tame compared to others. If you want to understand more how they do it and the extent that they do it, listen to Jerusha on Dan Duval's show, Bride Ministry. She will go into great details. And one of the things that she explains is this was done to her, the team that she was on. I don't remember if there were children or not, but they actually took her consciousness and they took aside monkey's consciousness, pushed that aside, and took human consciousness and put it into the monkeys. And when it comes to, doing things, playing with our soul, with our consciousness, it's been done for so long in various ways. And she does explain it. It's very fascinating to listen to some of those testimonies, how they do it. So
what would the purpose of that be? I'm just trying to understand the purpose of putting a human consciousness into a monkey consciousness, and vice versa, I would imagine as well, right?
Right. One, it's evil. Two, that's the end of days. If, let's say, a human cannot get the job done, but the monkey could, for whatever evil thing mission that they had, they will use the monkey, or they will create an avatar, the monkey, because the monkey can climb a certain way, and they need somebody to climb up there. You name it, they've done it. It's basically like this. Sometimes I will have this kind of thinking, if I can do evil, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure everything is set up to where I can capitalize on this evil. You got to have that kind of mentality. Well, you have that kind of mentality. You have that kind of mentality when you're under witchcraft, when you're under sorcery. You just don't realize what you're doing to other people. It's gone. It's just not in you, because you're under. And then you turn it around.
It makes a lot of sense what you're saying, because what you were also speaking about last week is that, compared to the American system that we used to talking about a lot on this show, with the bloodlines and the expendables and blah, blah, blah. Russia is very different because they don't really care what your bloodlines are, because they have so much blood iniquity already. Doesn't matter, which I found extremely interesting. And this is where I understand now why Russia would be seen as the superpower, because of the technology that they've already been able to use to really computerize the programs for these avatars. It's like they've got this programming slick, and all they need is the human ingredients, right? The hair, this knob, that one, this one, and computerize it and create an avatar that does that. That is really where I see. I've not heard about that in America, I must say, but you've explained it the first time. I've never heard it explained like this before, and also with the child soldiers and stuff. We know that in the other systems, really, the super soldiers are raped, they're beaten, they're tortured, they are put through hell on a million different levels. But I've not heard anyone speak about it like this, where it literally is, you have a 2-week induction, so to speak, where they do everything and anything to you that they can in those 2 weeks. They take your hair, they take your body fluids, whatever it is they need to take from you, and they create avatars from that. Am I right? Is that an accurate synopsis of what that is?
That's exactly it. And it's like nobody gave them the right to do this. It's exactly what the Bible says. Satan steals, right? And I had a question like, well, if you're a believer, how can they possibly do this? How can they attach these great powers, demonic powers to you? If you're a Christian, and I'm third, fourth generation believer Christian, but it happened. They did it. I personally did not sell myself to the Lord. I didn't want him as much as I do now until I was 10 years old. And after 10, when I turned 10, when I did say, like, Jesus, I need you as my best friend. I can't live in this world without you. The fighting, like the kind of brutality that I did beforehand, before I was 10, I would fight. You asked me to fight, I will fight. We had neighbors that I did not like, Russians, of course, 4 of them. We were 9 years old. I would boil they lived on the first floor, we lived on the second floor of the apartments. I would boil the water on the stove and I would dump that boiling water on them as they were passing by. You know, that's brutal. I would tie my sister up in the house when I had to watch her when the parents were out, tie her up for hours and go out to play. Like, you just don't have any kind of healthy thinking. You don't think like, hey, that might hurt somebody. It's just missing in your head. So anyhow, going back to them believers asking like, well, if you're a believer, you can't attach them. Satan steals a part of your soul, and then the spirit, basically, there's 3 parts to you, right? The body, the spirit, the soul. If you're not walking with the Holy Spirit closely, then these other bigger spirits come in and they will move the Holy Spirit out of the way if you're not holding on to the Holy Spirit. And then they come into your body and they're messing with you. They're bullying you around, right? So if they attach a great deal of those demons, those powers, those spiritual powers onto me, and they all gain up like that, if that particular avatar, if I'm killing somebody, right? And they've got all these powers, that one day or that 1 hour, I will be going nuts in the head because all of the other spirits are kind of pushing me towards me pushing the Holy Spirit out, and then they're taking over. They're controlling me. This world is a spiritual world.
Yeah.
Period.
Life is spiritual. Life is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow.
And your soul is neutral ground, right? It's where your consciousness, you can think, you can act, your personality comes through your soul. It's kind of attached to your heart, the way your heart is. It's, again, just neutral ground. The Bible talks about the heart being as a field. When the seed comes into the ground, if the soil is good, the seed will come up. Soil not so good, the seed will die. So what it's saying is, if your heart, your soul is like the field, it can be subdivided. So they can, with the programming, they can design a shopping mall over here, a hospital here, a prison here, a barn over here. They will, and then they will attach the avatars. So they're essentially creating almost like a metaverse, just using your heart, your soul, because they're subdividing it so much.
Is insane. The way you've explained it is so succinct, and it is so perfectly explained. So thank you for that, because I think that is exactly the way, and that makes it suddenly a penny has dropped for me, because all of this stuff is all pretty new to me as well, like the way it's done. So when you explain how they divide it, it's almost like an architect taking a house and creating different rooms, right? And that's what they do. And this one does, in this one you do that, in that one you do that, in that one you do that. So you have, it's still the same, but they've been able to master how to delineate and compartmentalize different compartments of your soul, your spirit, your nature. Wow.
Right, for different missions. And I got this from, it was Dan Duval who explained it like this, and it sunk in with me too. It's like, made sense. So they can do the same thing with some of the other people. They will subdivide and put the same stuff on their field, if you will, soul or heart, soul, well, heart, okay? So they will put that shopping mall, the prison, the hospital, the barn, which means they have avatars. They can create similar avatars with the other person. And because of, like, okay, I'm supposed to be functioning in the shopping mall, and so will they. So then we're on the same mission, doing the same mission, the same job. It's just, they kind of pair us up. So they'll use the same kind of programming.
Wow.
And they do, of course. What's I going to say?
Wow. And I have to say, I was having a little chuckle, thinking about our interview and re-listening to it, where Putin says the sleeper soldiers, he knows about them, but they're well behaved.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Yep. And when I give them the green light, they're going to go. And so this was...
They know how to behave themselves. I mean, it's like, what are you talking about? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at this, but it's insane to think, yeah, it's fun, but they know how to behave. We know about them. They know how to behave. Don't worry. It's like the most normal thing, right? How crazy.
It is. Right. So the soldier, and I'm sorry, another previous video, I was saying super soldier instead of a sleeper soldier. Super soldiers are different. Super soldiers are going to be brutal. They will hunt you down by your DNA. You can hide, you can run all you want. They will still find you because they're after your DNA. It's different. And I was a sleeper soldier. And the sleeper soldier, that was that one thing where we were looking at the huge screen with all the bombers going by. They will program that into our mind. Now, that one is connected to my body for sure. That's not an avatar. That's totally me. And I wondered for a long time. So, as I mentioned, some of the memories I was getting, if, Americans made me upset for some reason, I was immediately with the Russians, who I hated, right? My mind was, it was over there all of a sudden. I get terrible ear ringing, and it's happening now.
Are you okay?
It's not weird. They use you.
Yes, I understand.
I've had 4 heart attacks, and it happened every time we moved. Because every time we move from place to place, they kind of have to redo their work in the computer to follow me, right? And it affected my heart greatly, just every time. And now and then when I'm remembering something, I will get this terrible ear ringing. And then I would get bloody noses a lot, just sitting in class, and boom, it was a daily thing. Just some of the side effects, brutal side effects. Okay, so with the super soldiers. No, it's still, no, but it's good? Okay.
I'm very happy. If you feel like you want to take a break or a breather, we're very happy to do that.
No, let's keep going. No, okay. My God is bigger than that. So
pray for our beautiful guest, guys. Please, yeah. Lira's obviously having some issues from her programming or implants. Yeah, so let's just, because obviously we know this happens, that when they start speaking, the EMF stuff that they use becomes active. So let's just...
I think we got rid of, or I think God dissolved the tracker in the back of my head here. But there are times when I'm still, not to this degree, this is the worst that it's ever been. We're just, that they're ringing in the ears, in the head is crazy.
Well, you're exposing a lot of very, very, very powerful information right now. You got to realize that this is information that the majority of the Western world, I don't believe, has heard before. So for me, this is astounding. It gives me the difference between what's happening in America and Russia, and how Russia, in fact, is bringing in the metaverse. And we're going to talk about that later, because that's where your daughter's involved as well. So, yeah, we will, if you can talk further, we can. I'm very happy to cut the interview and carry on later. Very happy, and I'm sure viewers will understand.
Yeah, let's keep going. Okay. We have to do this. God is bigger than this. Than them.
Let's talk about the sleeper soldiers.
Amanda Weiss encouraged us to remember to step into those parts that they've created in us, and just acknowledge. I'm going to tell that part how much God loves them, how Jesus died on the cross for them, and so on, so that they are loved, right? That their soul belongs with God the Father and not with these evil ones. So that particular time I stepped into that role, and it's all in your mind, that you're doing all this talking, and I'm seeing all of the soldiers, the planes landing around me. We live near the pasture, and I tell them, like, you don't have enough pilots here. I need more pilots for you to do your job, for you to go and bomb certain places, because I'm supposed to give them the quadrants that they're supposed to bomb. And I gave them specific quadrants. I asked them to bring in more pilots. I asked them to bring in their generals, because I was supposed to give the orders to the generals, not the soldiers, and so on. And then I go to bed. Early in the morning, I sit up because I feel like everything is just, all this blackness is coming out of me, every opening in my body just coming out of me. I thought I was going to throw up all over my husband. It was so bizarre. And immediately God says, they unplugged you from the areas that you told them, because I knew better. When I was remembering things and I was giving them the coordinations, I knew who I was in my head. Like, no, I'm God's child. So I was giving them the locations where I knew there was evil to bomb. So they tracked me, and in the morning they unplugged me for it. And Chantel, I was so sick I couldn't go to work the next day. I said I had something personal came up. I can't go in. I laid on the couch. I couldn't move. I was nauseous. I couldn't think straight. I knew darn well I wasn't sick at all. Everything was fine around me. It just how they connect you, your soul, your spirits, other spirits, that it affects you greatly physically. So I knew that I was done with that one. And it was physical. It was the actual me who was supposed to be that actual sleeper soldier. So I'm happy there. You can trust me. But during this time, it went on for a few months where I was going back and forth, being with the Russian military and then being here in US, loyalty, where it went back and forth. During that time, I started growing poisonous plants. I started collecting poisonous mushrooms. It's like questionable ingredients for the questionable guests, because I knew in my head the way they programmed me that I was supposed to be helping those soldiers, and I might be housing those Russian soldiers. And if I thought, hey, I got to have poison on hand. You have that kind of mindset. Still have it.
Wow.
It's just out there.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for pushing through. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
It's still there, but not as brutally bad. It's still there.
All right.
Let's talk about
the deprogramming, the actual deprogramming. Unless there was something else from your side that you wanted to cover before we actually went into the deprogramming.
No, let's go into that. And this is how I did it with my daughter, and it helped her like that. So everything is a legal right, as you know. The Russians, it doesn't matter who it is, right? When you're working with the evil spirits, Satan's not going to give you his powers, the ones under him, to people like that just for free. So they make pacts, they make treaties with them. It's like tit for tat. Here's the blood, here's the iniquity. Let me have some of your powers. And our judicial system was based on God's judicial system. So I literally go up there into heaven with Jesus and with the Holy Spirit. We're standing in front of God the Father, and it does look like our courtroom. You've got God the Father, which is, you can't see him. There's so much power and glory coming out of him, lightning. It's just scary, very, very powerful. But you have the creatures also there. And sometimes it's Jesus who appears on that throne, in that chair, and then sometimes Jesus is right next to me. Just goes back and forth. And then there's the witnesses, and it's the ones that have passed, our loved ones. So they're there also in the courtroom. Very, very cool. And then on the other side, it's Satan, and Satan holds the document, and it will be for every part, that they've attached me to. It's a legal document, like, hey, I have it right here. So I have to ask Jesus I have to say, I'm done with this. I don't want it anymore. Tear it up, burn it up, Lord Jesus, just done. I have to agree with that. And when I agree with that, then God the Father, Jesus, they do just that. And you go from part to part to part. And every time you do that, when you are, Bible says, when you have cleaned your house, that one spirit has left your body. A while later, he goes back and he calls the other 7 spirits that are stronger than him. So demons are thinking here, right? And demons are talking to each other. They're real. He brings in the other 7 stronger spirits.
They're very smart.
Exactly. Right. You got to have a strategy. You have to have a strategy. And Holy Spirit gives you the strategy to fight them, basically, to walk all over them, actually. So you have to understand that you can't leave an empty house. As soon as you have them leave, as soon as God tears up that treaty, you have to ask God to fill you up with his glory, with the Holy Spirit, with the ministering angels all around you, the warrior angels protecting you all around you. Start reading the Bible, start praying more, singing. Just keep filling that empty space with God's goodness. It's a must. Otherwise, you're going to be screwed up badly, royally. And that's what I did. Same with my daughter. As soon as I started praying this divorce prayer, which is very long and it's very specific, she started remembering things, and I started seeing things on her. With her, do you want me to go into it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. If you're comfortable speaking about that at this stage. I know that we did mention last week that your daughter was also taken without your knowledge by the Russians and had stuff done.
It was by Americans, not the Russians. It was by. I used to do Krav Maga, a fight class, near DC area, and it's an Israeli fighting program. It's like you learn stab, rip, stand on your feet, take somebody out quickly. It was my epitome of fun at that time. But that instructor was a handler. He became a good friend from church, people from church, right? He's still in church, sitting in South Riding, Virginia, just if you guys need to know. And his name is J.B. Neal. He's a handler. So, yeah,
Neal,
a friend.
as in N-I-L-L.
N-E-A-L. J.B. Neal.
Mm-hmm. J.B. Neal.
He actually, so he works for the 3-letter agencies, right? He's got a cover story for the cover story clearance. And when Jessie showed about 2 years ago, when she was talking about the space program that's coming up, it's going to be coming up a whole lot more. But she showed the map of the quadrants in space. So when you need to send a space shuttle into space, you got to ask permission for those powers and principalities, whether we can send that spaceship up there, or that satellite up there, I should say, satellite, because he worked with satellites. And God the Father, he was kind to Satan by giving him a place in the universe. When he fell down from heaven, from his glory, he put him, Satan, and all his angels into second heaven, the space that we know, when we think of the black space, yeah, he gave that location for him. So they're there. Therefore, every company in the world, if they're going to be sending anything up there, they have to make a treaty, a legal treaty, ask them permission to get up there into space, right? Satellite, whatever. And JB, he also designed this little logos, which Jessie shows on the reveal report. She shows this little logos where it tells everybody in the world what space program they're in, by the different quadrants, the different stars in that specific quadrant, and they appeal to that specific principality. And he actually designed some of these logos, and he wore them with pride. He would explain to us, we just didn't care about them at that time. And you got to understand, if you're going to be in that field, working with the demons, working with the powers, and doing secretive stuff, you have to be a Freemason also. And every time he was around me, he would do the different Freemasons symbols, the shakes and so on. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's there, he did it, and one of his jobs was to appeal to those principalities so they can give them permission, open the doors for them to send the satellites up in space. And they needed, there's also the galactic federations. You've heard of them?
Yeah.
We're not the only ones here. So
yeah.
Some of his bosses wanted to be part around that one of the galactic federation's tables, council table, right? And God said that let me back up a little bit. As I was praying for my daughter, I started seeing things. One of the things that I saw was there was a table, one of the galactic federations, and around there were deities sitting, people sitting, those demonic entities who were sitting there, and JB's bosses, 14 of them, they wanted to be up there also. And you kind of need some of your flesh to be up there along with your spirit. And the way they did that was JB would dip his phallus into their semen, impregnate my daughter. A while later, they would take the fetus out. These demons would come down. They appeared in the room. There's 3 of them. She saw them, I saw them. And they would take this flesh of a baby, this fetus. They would take it up there. So now you've got somebody from Earth here up there. And it happens because of my daughter's child's purity, right? Their purity is what they want, and that's what just carries them up there. And now you've got they're up there too. They're here and they're up there. Can't quite explain it too well yet, but
wow. No, I get it. I understand it. What I'm trying to understand is why they are taking the flesh there. What would be the purpose of that as well? Because clearly there's a reason that wherever they're taking the fetus, the actual little fetus, there's a reason they're taking it in flesh, right? Cells or whatever.
With the fetus, it's going to be a different avatar up there, right? It's like that starter dough that I was talking about with my blood, right? They just need a little bit of it, and then they'll add to it, and then voila, they've got this other creation. So as long as they had some of their DNA up there, essentially, right? Then once they're there, they get whatever body they want. But the idea was for them to sit around this table, have counsel, have influence with the galactic federations up there, and then also have one foot there and then another foot here on Earth in these agencies. Right. So they just have more control.
Wow.
Because otherwise you're just appealing to the powers over and over. I mean, a whole lot more. It's just easier for them to have one foot here and one foot there, and that's what they did. So God said that there were 16 parts, and there was 14 of them, like his bosses, who had him do this and perform the the abortions, because I would take her from one specialist to the next. She would just bleed so much. He would drug her a great deal. And she's a nurse. So she asked me, like, what drugs did they use? And I told her, God showed me, like, there's a purple one, there was a yellow one. He could put them on his hands, and then as soon as he comes over, you touches you, like you're not quite there. He can put into a gum, this drug, give it to you like that. She was throwing up a great deal. I was throwing up because in some ways he was also handling me, because I would get some feelings. And I remember a period of time when I was throwing up a lot, but she would be dog sick often. She just wasn't, if you ask her for, like, what happened on this trip, what happened there for the last 8 years, she just doesn't remember anything. Oh, so she was used. And when I started praying over her, she said somebody else prayed over me. And what I remembered when I was 8 years old was this leopard blanket that she had that was put over my head. And I was trying to fight to get out of it. And that was it. I don't remember anything else. I blacked out. And I told her that's when what I saw in the spirit, that's when they put a tracker in you through a rectum, because I said, I'm seeing this little clear triangular bubble, almost like that they've inserted you, and they're tracking everything in you, in your body, all your vitals. And she immediately goes, oh, I've had dreams over and over and over again that I'm being tracked. I told counselors, because she had a ton of counselors, just to, find herself. She said, I told it to the counselors, I told it to my husband that I have a tracker in me. Just somebody believe me. And I said, yeah, they did put a tracker in you, because then they know when you can't have a baby. And you know how it is in the evil world, they can induce the girl to have her periods early, like as early as 8 years old, so she can start having babies. So they needed to know how her body was, when they can impregnate her, and when can they abort that baby out. And I saw that. But not only that, I've also seen her, how she was kept in a morgue. They'll take her out because of the torturing. So he would come into our house when we were working. I had cameras in our house. My phone is still tapped to this day. And and sometimes at nighttime, he would take her out of school. And again, you can drug people around. I think Jesse talks about it. It's just normal. And that's when things like that would happen. We live over a mountain, Mount Fema. There's a great big city right underneath our feet. And he would take her just in various locations, not too far away from our own house, under the ground, the bunks. He did that. There was another one. I've seen her sitting in the chair where she's tortured completely, where all of her limbs are spread apart. They're them reviving her, bringing her back to life. And I think that one was, when they did that was when they used her to travel into the future. Because I saw her in this, it was almost like a submarine, round ball, very, very thick walls, big bolts, and only about 3 children could fit into this ball, and they would send them into the future to glean information from the future. So, and that's when, because of all the pressure up there, she would just die, and the torturing too, like lots and lots of blood. One of the other parts for her was they used her in this very narrow tunnels out of space that she would crawl to, break something, get through something, because she's tiny. And then another thing is, when you're going through these tunnels, and I've seen it on 2 different people, the demons come towards you, the powers, because they don't want you to get into certain things, secretive things. But when you have God's glory in you, power in you, and God fights for you, fights through them, through those demons, and you can get through. That's another reason why they like to tap into innocent children, or especially children who know Jesus. They've got that much more power in them, with them. And I've seen the different people who were around her body, who were programming her, the different men. Also, it was just a lot of electrical shocks. There was more. I'm not thinking about it all. The one thing that I'll tell you is both her husband and her were ecstatic that this information was coming forward to them, because they just could not, there were some things that they could not explain, the way she would react when her husband would touch her, or why she won't drive. She's a nurse, has 2 kids, but she won't drive. She doesn't have a license. And like it's because he would put her in the car before taking her somewhere for the program, for the torturing. She would be put into the car. So for her to get into the car or drive it is just overwhelming. So, and then there's the mirror programming. Like, I'm going to ask her to break a mirror. We burn some clothes, various things that we've done. But it all started with taking all this to the courts of heaven and divorcing her from it all. And her agreeing with long, long prayers. Like I said, specific prayers like, do you agree to not want this, disagree with this? Yes, 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 yes. And you continue. And it's a process, and we just started, actually. I was so sick when I kept myself together as I was seeing all this on her and telling her, and she would confirm, like, yes, that's how I feel. Yes, I can't walk because my hip is over here. It's just wrong. Yes, I'm forgetting because I saw angels dabbing blood out of her skull, out of her brain. And it's like, yeah, that's because, you've been in space and back, that pressure and the torture, the electrical shocks. And she's like, okay, well, that makes sense with this here. But I kept it all together, and then I go to sleep. And all of a sudden, I just projectile vomiting that comes out of me all over. Just, I vomit and vomit nonstop. I'm like, this is nuts. I didn't eat anything, no nothing. Clean it all up, go back to bed, and again, just vomiting. Like, my body could not take it all in. It was so brutal. It's like, oh, and there was the helicopter and the orbs around our house. I remember coming out of, I did not put it in the images, but I stepped out of the front door one night and I'm seeing these, they're not orbs, they were like donuts, greenish, yellowish donuts. And they were so close, it felt like I could just jump and reach them. There was 4 of them. They were hovering over a house for the longest time. I mean, in the front door, to the point where I ran to the house to get the phone to take a picture of them. And then by the time I came out, it was just the shadows of them. They were gone. Another time, so us living by FEMA, we are used to seeing helicopters, black helicopters going around, but they have their path. This one time, they came very close to our house, to the back porch. It was there. Like, I could almost throw something into that chopper. It was that close to us, black. There was one guy in there, all the doors were open, and he was holding something the size of a tablet, and he was holding like that towards us, towards our house. And then shortly after, JB goes, we're having dinner together, like I said, our close friend. And he's like, I've noticed that you guys, anytime I ask you guys a question, you don't give me a straight answer. And that's exactly what they wanted. They did not want you to give a straight answer. So whatever they were doing with it, from that helicopter, with that thing, the frequencies that they were putting on our house, that was just to keep us all controlled, basically. Then also over the years, I end up doing the same thing with a lot of the program people do. They isolate themselves from everybody. I found that I'm not entertaining as much as I used to. I used to have a bunch of people going through the house, lots of parties, but then it boiled down to just him, his family, just a small cluster of friends where he always had control over everything. And if for some reason my daughter went out somewhere, she had to be in a different place, like, he was on top of things, wondering like what's going on. Just he was her handler, but also handling me at the same time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. At what point did she discover, or you discover, that she had been programmed? What brought that up for you?
It was somebody else. When she was at Liberty University, somebody prayed for her, so that triggered it. And then later on, she just had a baby, right? And I prayed over her for various reasons, and God said she has 16 children. She has many children. I'm like, I'm not about to tell her this because she's holding a 5-day-old baby. Milk is coming in. Like, I don't want to stress her. But eventually we did start talking about it, And she started remembering things because of that one thing of what I was telling her, like I'm seeing these three demons coming down, projecting themselves, manifesting themselves in our guest bedroom that was right next to her room. And I explained to her, I described them, tall, skinny, black, three together, and they're holding this fetus. They're just like asking for it. And she's like, that's crazy. That's exactly how I've seen them. They're coming in just like that, manifesting themselves. One of the times I did see that as JB was doing the abortion also, somebody came to the house. Again, this is all in the spirit that I'm seeing, right? I'm a seer. And they took that fetus right away. Whatever job that they had, mission that they had, program that they were working on, they had it. They needed it so quickly. But before JB was done, sewing her, whatever, the abortion, not sewing her up, but doing it, like they took it and ran it back to their company. Just like all those companies. Well, no, never mind. It's
wow, that's insane. I mean, that is absolutely an incredible story. So, I mean, I know there's so much more that I want to ask you, and we're just about out of time. So I think we're going to have to make the other stuff for our next interview. But what I'd just like to find out from you as well, how have you and your daughter managed to work through this? How have you dealt with this with her? I mean, this, as a mom, this cannot be easy information to digest. And how did they get to her?
How did they get to her?
Yeah.
In some ways, it was me who opened the door, I guess. I don't know. He was in the church, said he had a fight class. My husband got me going there because it was for self-defense. First, it started with that. I'm like, this is fighting. Okay. This is fun. Like, I'm going to stick around. But when he knew what he was doing. Like, he was, another thing that God showed me with him and those three-letter agencies, they've got these vaults that they work in. They call them vaults. It's, closed in rooms where they torture somebody. And when they torture somebody, that's when they create those altars. So he was called a general because he would teach people how to do this. You can only torture them so much, before they die completely. And that's when you start telling them what they ought to be. Yeah. Super soldiers. No, not quite. Just agents. We'll call them agents. But he was involved with that. And I think in his fight class, he was also fishing, who are good opportunities, I should say. But anyhow, we were open. Like I said,
but would they have been? I mean, obviously, I just also thinking how these guys work in the system. Yeah, I mean, you would have been targeted or marked already, so you would have obviously had a certain level of success or frequency or attainability or whatever. So maybe because of that, she would have therefore then be targeted, even if it was by Americans, right? Because if it's going both ways anyway, I mean, to me, it makes sense that it could have literally been because of your success, maybe,
And I do remember, like I was predisposed. The household was predisposed. I do remember one of the memories that I got back was, I was on a spaceship, and somebody else, another testimony confirmed that there were some orange handrails that were there, mezzanine. There was a window, like a check-in window on the right side. They had a movie star there. So when people are coming onto the board, on board of that ship, they're not so scared because they're seeing a familiar face in front of them, which I found it so interesting. And then after a while, you wait there's tables, so they're wait, and then an entity kind of looking like human, but not human, he comes and gets you, and then they were put me on the table with a bunch of lights over me, kind of tied me down, and that's all what I remember, just all of them being around me, coming towards me, and the lights. So, I mean, once you're predisposed, once your soul parts, those codes have been sold to others, game on.
Wow.
They'll do whatever, however they need to, want to. So I was already with that space stuff, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were just predisposed. And yeah, you have to forgive yourself here. Like, how could I allow that? Why didn't I always had it in my heart, in my mind? I actually quit work. Like, something is wrong with my daughter. Something is very wrong. But I didn't want to face it. I didn't let my brain go there. Like, no, it is him. Like in the back of your head, like, yeah, he's capable of doing this. But in your other mindset, it's like, no, no, no. He's our good family friend. That's
Wow.
not the case. Parents, beware. There was somebody, one of the comments was that we protect our children, we don't let them watch TV. We did the same thing. Yeah, but in the upcoming generation or this generation, it's great to protect your children, but the second they step out your household, they've got friends who are going to show them on screen. This is how it is, and this is how it's
Absolutely.
done.
The influence.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
we
The
have
influence.
to we have to explain to them um, what it is. And then the other thing was for the closing with me. When we moved into this particular house, I felt also the entities, pinning you down, holding you down. You can't move, the paralysis, night paralysis, feeling things in the house. And I went to church, our pastor, deacons, and I would 3 different people asking, like, help me. I don't know what to do. Help me. And they couldn't. It's like, well, if you're a believer, you shouldn't be experiencing that. Well, I was a believer. Yeah, I went back and forth. 1 minute, I'm totally with God. And then the other minute, oh, actually, Morna, you can pull up my sketches so they can see. And then the other minute, you're not. And they couldn't help me. I ended up actually connecting with my husband's uncle, who was a missionary in Africa. And because he was so used to seeing all the spiritual attacks, he told me
Mm.
to sing a song when you're under attack. Sing a song because your brain can only carry one thing. So that's how I felt. I did that, I think, when I was 16. Your brain is so shattered. You're looking calm and cool and collected, but that's how your brain feels. And I had no idea what I was doing with all these sketches, drawings. My art was my diary. I never showed them to anybody. I dug this stuff up like for you. This particular one, I know, hard to see, but it's you're looking at the back of the woman. She's holding rose-colored glasses because that's how she's supposed to see the world. She's a snake. Back up a little bit, Mornay. Back out a little bit. I mean, zoom out. So she's a snake. There's the head of the cobra. That's her head. Because inside you feel like you're a snake. You're so brutal at times. You're also seeing an hourglass because time is running out and you're stuck in this cage. You're stuck in this hourglass. You cannot get out. And on the bottom, it's a sandcastle that I've kind of created in my head. Like, no, everything is just nice and dandy. And it's a little girl who's in that sandcastle. And even though she can't come out, you've got this moat around. Like, she still can't go anywhere. So then I go to plan B, like, hey, life is full of cherries. So she's wearing these pearls, but she's, dropping them down into a bowl of cherries. Like, that's swimming on that moat. I mean, but again, you're encased in this hourglass, and you've got nothing but this cobra in you, which was the Eye of Egypt. I was also connected to that. So that's how I didn't know until just a few months ago. That's why I drew that.
Wow.
I mean, you're
How
everything.
old were you when you drew the picture? When was that picture drawn?
When I was in my early 20s, kids were sleeping
Okay.
upstairs. Oh, Morning goes through some of the other drawings. So here's another one, couple. You always feel like you're running. You're doing something. Like, can't sleep. You're always doing something because you're on the run. You got all the pieces, various pieces coming at you, shattering. Like, Monet, go to the lower one. You always feel like you're in a maze. And I know Jesse talks about the maze, even the queen has her mazes, right? They'll put you into these, your avatars are always in mazes. So you can't get out of
Yes.
them. That's another
Or
thing.
a maze not a labyrinth, it's a different thing. Okay, maze makes more sense, yes.
Right. So like here you can see that I can see, hey, there's clarity over there. I can like go away, but no, you're gonna go off the cliff if you're going to try to get away from their programming and off of those
Wow.
avatars. And you're just constantly going, you think like you're okay, you're in the clear, but you're not. Go to the Samson one, chains. Yeah. That's how you feel. You are in chains. You are a servant, right? You are their slave. You're pushing it. Just go to another one. At times you felt invincible. You can do whatever. And then other times you feel like, Jesus, just carry me because I've got nothing. I'm a lifeless human being. There's another one also. And yeah. And then the rest of the time I was either fighting myself, just so I need to kill you. And then other times I was so angry. I just wanted to just smack everybody, throw them down. And I did all these when I was in my 20s, like I said, while kids were taking their naps. It was just something that was coming out of me. Looking back at them, it's like, you shouldn't be a mother if you have that kind of mindset. At least I was getting it out on paper. And I encourage listeners, if any, it's a red flag, right? When you're doodling pictures like that, or when you're growing plants, poisonous plants or mushrooms, it's a red flag. Like something happened to you. This is not normal. So I encourage you to take the time, go back to your diaries, the way you were thinking, go back to your doodling, some of the things that you've done or seen, or even at the pictures, look at your demeanor. On your pictures, older pictures, you will see that your demeanor will change. It's just not, you don't have that spark of joy of life. And I tell to people, when you go to the last image, it's a rose. I do the jail ministry. And when I talk to the ladies, I tell them, like, you were created like a beautiful rose. And due to all the horrific events that happened to you along the way, you take those petals off, you bury them deep and far away. You don't want to think about them because they were so horrific. So you can see, like, there's a rose without the petals. Like, there's nothing left but the thorns. So every relationship that you are in, you have nothing to give but thorns. You hurt every relationship because you are so broken. You have no fragrance to you. But when you take the time to go down that journey, to find each petal that was stolen from you, that you chose to bury, you find it, then it's a big, long journey to forgive. And you definitely need mercy and grace. You definitely need God, Jesus, love and peace along the way to forgive them, forgive yourself. And then eventually that rose petal is put back on your rose. And you get enough of those petals back on your rose to where you can finally have that fragrance coming out of you. And every relationship after that you're with, people want to be around them. They see the love. They see the journey that you've gone, and they want what you have. They want Jesus. Take the time to find your pieces. Be that beautiful rose. Yeah. It's yours.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that is a beautiful way to end our podcast for today, our broadcast. So, Lira, thank you.
Mm-hmm. May I pray for the survivors?
You may.
Some of the people. All right. Dear Lord Jesus, our Creator, Savior, and Judge, I thank you for your mercies. I thank you for your patience, for your grace, for your forgiveness, and for your powerful blood. I ask you to give the desire to people who are listening, the desire to go down those painful paths and find what was stolen from them. I ask you to restore it. I ask you to release your 7 spirits that are around your throne room. The Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of knowledge, understanding, wisdom, counsel, might, and the spirit of fear of the Lord, may it be upon them. You are the truth. You are the revelator, Lord. Open up their amygdala. Help them remember what they need to get through this journey, Lord Jesus. I ask you to release your warrior angels to hold back the evil and release your ministering angels to minister to them. Help them remember everything. We thank you for the cross. We thank you for your love. May your name be glorified forever and ever, Lord Jesus. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lira. Wow. Okay. Thank you for today. Quite a revelation. And I want to say thank you to our amazing viewers as well for supporting and watching. Really some great information that Lyra's revealing, yeah. So thank you, Lira. God bless you. And thank you for your openness and your candidness and sharing your story with us. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you guys being here. So please, if you haven't already, please give us a like, a share, a subscribe. Catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, all over the show, really. So God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa on this amazing Thursday. I'm about to get load shedding in a couple of minutes. So when everything goes dark and you see my cheeks, because I got the ring light on. So when the lights go off, the ring light shines on my face, and you just see my cheeks. Well, I do anyway. Anyway, so that's gonna happen soon, but everything is under control. It's not a drama today. So I just want to welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa, the amazing Asia Raine. Asia, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you back with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me to come back and be here
Absolutely.
with you and more. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I think you've got such a fascinating story. I think, every overcomer, and I can't stress this enough. I'm sure my viewers must be quite bored of me saying this, but I'm sure you guys probably all feel the same. When we hear your stories, it's heart-wrenching. And it is so crazy that these things even exist in our sphere, let alone under our very feet. So I think it's really an awakening process at the moment for a lot of people as well. And we know that anyway. And that's why it's so imperative that we have people like yourself who are sharing and so knowledgeable, Asia. And what I really enjoy about you is that you've done your healing as well. So you've come to the place where you can truly share your experience as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. It took a lot of time and work and dedication and even money to get to this point. And I also feel like there is a very huge aspect of an internal desire to heal. And I think we all have that. I think that is just part of who we are as humans, that things that are misaligned are always leading us on how to become more aligned in, our emotional, our mental, our physical, spiritual beingness. And so I just feel really grateful that I am able to share what I'm able to share, and I'm glad I can do that. So, thank you.
Yeah, we are certainly glad you can do that too, because and I think I said that to you on our talk last week, is that I think more and more now we're going to be seeing SRA overcomers and survivors emerging out of the woodwork as if from nowhere. But I must say, when I look back on my path over the past 20 years of being a healer, I was dealing with a lot of people who had this stuff going on, and they did not know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't I didn't see any. There were definitely times I saw blood. I must say, I saw blood. And to me, that was like creepy. If I was working with someone and I was assisting them in getting through stuff, I did see that. But it was never to the extent that I've made the connection or that they've made the connection to this sort of stuff going on. It's very gruesome. And I think it really does. It wreaks havoc in a young child's mind, as we know, and then these young children go on to become very wounded adults. And that's when we look at the term woundology, because woundology really means that obviously if a child has been wounded, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, on every level as a child, they will carry those wounds and they don't know how to heal them. So then they become oftentimes they will manipulate and use them to their advantage. But, as adults, we get to the point where we realize it is our choice. We have to make the choice to heal or not to heal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we continue the narrative that it's my mother's fault or my father's fault, and they did this and they did that, we're going to continue creating for ourselves in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
And the wounded child, listen, when we're looking at that whole inner child mythology, and when you're looking at Caroline Mace's work, and do you know Caroline Mace? When she talks about I think she's one of the old school, such real. She's genuine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, she talks about the archetypes, and one of the 4 archetypes we all have. Like she talks about the 4 core archetypes, and the one would be that of the wounded child, which we all have. And it's super interesting, when we look at that. But just not, I know I'm sort of veering slightly off the topic or not really, but it's so important for us to go back and do the healing where we are now using our experiences for the betterment of you yourself and those around you. And of course, then you also become these amazing, incredible healers, like I see in you and several other survivors and overcomers as well. So it's really cool to see. Yeah.
I want to kind of add to what you were saying there. I feel like because we're uncomfortable with pain and uncomfortability and, all of the disharmony that we might be listening to or is going on in our lives or whatever, we're always seeking to find the solution so that we can soothe and ease ourselves, like just kind of like rest from all of the uncomfortability. And I'm using that word very broadly at this moment. But one of the things that, the thing that actually got me to the place that I am at as far as my healing is the fact that I did go into the places that were terrifying, that were gruesome, that were uncomfortable. I looked at what was there and I went there with curiosity. And so I like to refer to it as like the inner archaeologist. I've got a program that I'm writing just so that people can actually learn how to do inner child work in a way that I did. And it's like going in there with curiosity. Ooh, I wonder what's here. Now you're going to discover things because, like you said, we all have wounds, but you're going to discover things that you aren't happy about, that you are uncomfortable with. There's a reason they were buried in the first place. There's a reason they've been put away or buried. And whether it's through a function of your natural brain, like if you have like a fight or flight response going on and the chemicals and the the synapses and things like that are happening, or if it's just, I don't want to think about that again. There can be that part also. And so if we can, when we can, as individuals, recognize that there are things that are part of our lives that as adults, we think we're in charge. But like you said, we've got these scenarios that we're always continually talking about. It's my mom's fault. It's this fault. It's that fault. We're putting it outside ourselves. and look at it more as an inner archaeologist and say, I wonder where this is rooted in me. I wonder how this is connected to me and what I'm agreeing with. That's another hard question. It's like the things that we find ourselves in cycle in, somehow it is serving us, and it will serve us until it doesn't. And once it doesn't, that's when it releases. And a lot of times you have to go searching, or you really have to do some work to keep recognizing it. And I feel the inner child, like the whole archetypes, are definitely really important and an overview. But talking to and learning from all of those parts of ourselves at those different ages, those inner children, is really going to be the most educational piece that can be there. But you've got to remember that you don't have a relationship with those inner children if you have been ignoring them. And so you've got to give them a space of inner trust. So you've got to have dialogue that you might be really foreign to. And I honestly believe that there's a lot of helpful programs out there, but I have, and there's a time and place for them all too, there's not a one size fits all. There are things that we get to be responsible for and navigate and step into and try. One of the ways I've heard people taking care of, their inner child and looking at, their shadow, is to recognize it and then invite that child to sit on their lap and ask if they want to integrate, or give them another job and send them off to do something else. And that doesn't open dialogue. It's a soothing thing. And a lot of times that actually is helpful, but we have these things contained within us, and we have these truths. So if we look at it more like, I'm going to go and I'm going to either take an excavator and really just dig this out big, or you recognize, ooh, you know what? This is just like an archaeological dig. I need to use a shovel, or I need to use a toothbrush, or I need to really kind of get careful and fine here. It is a spectrum of how we really work with ourselves. And you and I were talking about this earlier. We are not supported, trained, or helped in this very much, especially with the way society is being conditioned with the 15-second videos and the distractions out here and the uncomfortability in here, and how do I soothe that and where do I find that? It doesn't allow for very real time, and I'm talking time in a linear fashion, for us to engage in ourselves and really find value in those slow conversations that are difficult to get to. All of this stuff that I've dug up, when you were I cried and I screamed. I mean, there are times that I would tell my therapist, hand me a pillow. I got to scream. And I would scream into this pillow because all of this massive emotion was coming up out of us. And I've heard so many people like, I don't know if I want to know this. Ooh, that feels really big. And my answer to that is, it is big. It's not bigger than you. You're still
it's so true. What you're saying, now, sorry, I just want to chime in there when we're talking about, when you're saying it's big, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at just at that level, the inner child, if you will, forms the foundation. It's like the foundation of your house. And if it's not solid and on a solid foundation and all of that, it's going to crack, and everything else. And I mean, every layer, if you will, can be seen as a different experience with a different, so if all your experiences are built on that cracked and faulty foundation, nothing is going to stay strong. Right. So it's such an important thing. And this is what I see time and time again, because of course, with any child that's been involved in SRA, particularly SRA, these guys know exactly how to really, really destroy that in the child, right? So they break down every ability that child may have to trust anything about their family, and secondly themselves, because a child's self-worth is built on how it's treated in its environment, right? So just the basics. So I think it's more and more, if we can realize, Asia, that this has been, and you know what else? If you really look at the wounded child archetype, it really started coming out in about the 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 60s, 70s. And it was round about then that people first started talking about that from the research I've been doing, right? But if you look before that, 40s, 50s, even 60s, depending,
Mm-hmm.
um, these were adults who were children and they were products of the war, right? And at the same time, look at the 50s and stuff, when all the fairy tales, all these characters, the Disney characters, and the Mary Poppins, that
Mm-hmm.
life at home, you saw Mary Poppins, the
Mm-hmm.
nanny that just clicked her fingers and everything was clean and took them on wonderful adventures. Mom woke up with her lips perfect and her hair still, perfectly coiffed. Dad didn't have drinking or boozing problems and wasn't beating mom up. So everything that they were showing that, along with fathers, especially fathers who'd come home from the war, many of whom had been PTSD. And you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine a child who was part of the baby boomers, because that's what it was when these guys came back from the war. For the first time seeing their father PTSD, maybe screaming at night or going off pop, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly Mary Poppins is that. So I want to escape into that and not this. So I believe this conditioning started a long time ago already. So that, when we look at how these guys work, right? When we look at how they work in terms of mass,
Programming.
yeah, well, I want to say programming, but there's even a worse word. It's like dumbing down,
Oh.
dumbing down masses. So, yeah, and it's very interesting then. So, in conjunction with our wounded fathers and mothers, because they had to now take care of things when the fathers weren't there, exactly right, and conjunction with this whole media narrative in all these early movies and things we were seeing, that these families are so perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
then come the 60s or the 70s, then for the first time, that's when the expression in the consciousness, the collective consciousness, right, starts raising its head. And
Mm-hmm.
isn't that interesting when we see where that is all leading to now? So
Mm-hmm.
it's so true what you're saying, that we have to get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, they've continued that by giving our children all this cool technology. First it was video games that was seemingly innocent, and now it's going into something a lot more depraved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so true what you're saying, going back to everything, and especially with the SRA. I mean, as a kid that grew up in a normal home with parents that, just had normal arguments, and we
Mm-hmm.
were stable. I mean, I come from a stable foundation. Hey, I've got my wounds. We all
Mm-hmm.
have them, to varying degrees. And some of them are brutal. They are brutal for some kids, So it really is a gentle understanding, I think, of what that is, and understanding how powerful the wounded inner child is, right?
Oh,
And
power.
I can give one bit of advice to each and every person on this planet. If you are remotely interested in changing your life, in changing the way you do things, in changing your health, your well-being, I would say seek someone who does inner child healing. And you got to find someone good, because this is such a blasé or a passé kind of thing. I'd say, inner child, please, whatever, get
Yeah.
over it,
Right.
And then we see the womb, the wounded womb as well, because then we look at our mothers who were extremely wounded in their emotions where the womb sits. Often they had horrible experiences with males.
Mm-hmm.
We are grown in that little sack that carries all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, coupled with everything, there's so much that if we just understand that, I'm sure we could click out of it just by shifting the frequency that we're in. But it's a very interesting one. And that really, we get there, right? When we feel uncomfortable, we've got to get to the place of being so bloody uncomfortable in ourselves and stop choosing to switch off to technology, to relationships, to drama, because through all of this as well, we become drama kings and queens. I mean, we can self-sabotage like nothing on earth, and it's so easy to blame someone else for that. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's your own actions, your own energy that's creating that experience for you. Yeah.
It becomes an addiction, and I'm using that word very specifically because if I know when there is enough unrest and uncomfortability inside, then again we're seeking to neutralize it. And I don't want to say neutralize it, because ultimately, in order to neutralize something, you need to see both sides. So if you're only looking at the positive, this is still going on doing whatever it is. There's no neutrality there. But if you can kind of like mute it, like if you can kind of put a muting on something. And so we end up getting fairly addicted to something that solves that for us. And so for some, it is that drama, like just even having a bit of quiet. And I'm not talking quiet like there's nothing going on in the home. I'm talking about quiet. There's no drama. There's nothing to talk about. There's nobody that you can like, there's nobody's business that you can get into. There's no gossip you can spread. I mean, that is actually one form of creating some activity that almost has to balance out all of the chaos that's going on inside. You've got to bring it up, right? So if this starts to have like, oh gosh, it's such a beautiful day, and look at the river, the first thing, look how nice all of this stuff, and your body starts to soothe. If you happen to have a thought that comes in and says, yeah, but I got to pay the bills and I got to, like all of that brings that up again. And now you're kind of in this frequency, and it's not a high frequency, it's a low one. But there's an adaptation. And in order to see this, you have to self-observe. Like we really need to be aware of ourselves. And there are plenty of distractions to keep us away from that, even within our own minds. It's the good news in this is that we're capable. The reality of it,
it's always here.
It can be a very long journey, and you're teasing out like this massive ball of yarn that is just tangled. I mean, it's not even a ball of yarn. It's just a mess that you want to, turn into something that you can actually go, oh, okay, I understand all of this. And I think this is where the archetypes and all of the inner children and all of those voices and that kind of thing, it's so worth that time. And then you were talking about the trust, self-trust. Self-trust has many faces, I would say. Like there is a version of self-trust that again feels good and is genuine to an individual. But when you come into a lot of distractor factors, and when you have a lot of programming and conditioning, especially coming from SRA, the self-trust is pretty low. It's pretty level. Like I mentioned, I was trained. Say that again. Sorry.
No, I said totally. I mean, you've got no confidence. Your trust is being destroyed. There's absolutely, there's betrayal is the name of the game, and you shut up, or you or someone you love is going to get into deep dark trouble.
Well, they play again, like you said. They know exactly what they're doing, and there is an entire, like, if you want to think about a blueprint for all of the experiences that happen, there's like a master blueprint. Do this, this, and this, and this is how you will create a mind control slave. Start at this age, do these things, that kind of thing. And then under that, there's another blueprint of maybe how it's like custom made for a religion or a different kind of cult activity or whatever. They break themselves down into different prescriptions, I guess is a good way to put it. And then if there's going to be a ceremony and there's multiple people involved, there's even a blueprint for that. And in blueprints, it's not like you walking into the house, you're looking at the framework. This is the way we are going to create this. Here is the plan, and we'll flesh it out, so to say, as this goes along. But they're really good at what they're doing. And so like they know how to play on, and they will constantly manipulate and exploit the victims that are in the situation. And in this particular one I'm thinking of, I was walking down a hallway, and I think, if I remember correctly, as I was pulling this forward, there was they had utilized I want to say it was a church. So this wasn't in the tunnels, and this wasn't in the temple. This was on another property, and they had created there'd been a kind of a whole set created. And in the Mormon churches, there are not only just meeting rooms and like a big kind of I don't want to call it cathedral, but it's like they call it, it's the main meeting room. It's like the sacrament, where you have sacrament meeting and bigger meetings. Usually in the same building, there's going to be like an auditorium and a stage so that they can do other kinds of things where they have activities and something social. And then there's other side rooms. And then there's also their own rooms that are mechanical rooms and things like that. So anyway, I just remember being walked down a hallway, and it was really dark. And we were walking to a set of double doors, and I remember I was holding the hand of a man. I don't know who he was, but somehow, again, I was there. I was holding his hand. And when you're, a child and you're holding somebody's hand, at the moment, you're clearly in a space of following. I'm not going to say full on trust, but trust enough to be walking with them and not fighting and screaming. And this is a lot of times why the drugs are really, really applicable, because it really does put you in an altered state. And he said to me, he goes, "Do you want to see Jesus?" And I was like, "Well, yeah," like it kind of perked up. And he said, "Would you die for Jesus?" And now all of a sudden I'm like, what kind of question is that? But I don't have the cognition to really kind of go, what kind of question is that? And I don't like this, so I'm going to bolt, right? Even though, and this is what I'm kind of getting to, is one of the ways that it really deeply sinks into the lack of self-trust. So my self-trust with that kind of a question, would you die for Jesus, would give a person an indicator like, wait, now I'm a little suspicious, but that's not able to really even come forward. And then as we were walking closer and closer, he said, Jesus is being hurt. And I could hear kind of some activity, something on the other side of this door. And he said, would you run in? Would you run in and save him? Would you save Jesus? And I was like, well, yeah, I would save, like anything I could do to help, right? And so we get in front of these double doors, and he says to me, all right, I want you to, when I open these doors, I want you to run as fast as you can and go help Jesus. And so there's a lot of things that in this setup that suddenly start coming. Now I've got adrenaline and awareness, and I'm still in a drug state, but all I have is the one instructions. I'm completely disregarding that Jesus, I mean, if you could actually look like, well, is Jesus really alive? No, he's not alive. Is he really here? That's not present. It might be present within, but that's not even considered. So self-trust is getting put further and further aside. You're just following the instructions because you want to help, right? So they opened the door, and I ran in as fast as I could, and it was all black, and I found myself in a maze. And I could hear on the other side somebody getting beat up, or like all, the noises and kind of, some grunting and screaming or whatever it was. And I had to find my way through this maze. And it was like black. It was, it may have been like they were black walls, but it had been set up. Like, I think it was kind of canvassy or curtainy or something like that, but it was solid also. And I got to the point where I kept running into walls. So I decided to look at the floor, because at least I could make out something. And so I was following this maze as fast as I could. And I finally came out on the other side. And there was a man that was dressed as Jesus. And prior to that, I had been in a, how do I want to say this? The setup, there was a prior setup in a different ceremony where I was remembering, I I had recognized from, I would say, hours before, or maybe it could have been, moments before, who knows. It's the way they set things up and move you around, and um, it's hard to tell. But anyway, the point is like, there was Jesus. And I remember looking at this man that was dressed as Jesus, and this is supposed to be the good guy, right? But I recognized him as somebody that had just got done hurting me, and hurting me badly. And then there was a man that was dressed in red, and he was representing Satan. And there were other men in there that had been beating this guy up. And I'm supposed to run over and help Jesus. And so I remember before I even came out, I could tell I was getting closer, and I started yelling, "Stop, stop." I was really trying to do this, thing to help. And I came out, and in yelling, "Stop," we're basically saying, don't you recognize him? This is the person that was hurting you. Kind of like, do you know who this is? And so now there's a massive confusion. I was just told to go help this person, and now I'm here, and I'm recognizing or being told that he, who he was, and I had just been hurt by him, raped, raped. And then there was a ceremony that had a lot to do with blood oath. And so it was a whole different ceremony where there was a lot of blood that was there. And so I got, I'm still part of all of this. I'm still in this whole other setup. And I know that I wasn't the only child in this routine, but this was kind of a singular thing in this moment. And basically I went over to help him, or I went over to get close to him, because I'd been taken over, kind of like taken by, they took my hand and took me over to him. And all of this dialogue was going on that was really kind of basing that who's good and who's bad, and who do I believe in, what the trust is. And it's traumatic in the first place. And I can't anchor into believing anything inside of me. I am now again defaulting to them. And they brought out a sword. They brought out a big sword, and big relative to a child, I'm going to say. And in this case, this man had really been beaten up. He had been hired. Again, this was another circumstance where they would hire homeless people to do things. And so the setup was, we want you to, we're going to pay you a lot of money. At one point in this entire ceremony, I'm only giving you one section, I watched the money exchange. So the money exchange is also being driven into me, or a person's psyche, of seeing what the exchange is. What money actually means is the trading, selling, and murder, raping, all of this thing of a child, of a person, of a group of people. So that was also part of it too. So even my association with money, as I've gone, through the years, has had to be healed in a really, really huge way. And because of some of this things that I've witnessed, right?
Absolutely. I was going to say, that's, and sorry, I don't want to interject here, but that's just another way that they will give you that association that money is bad, money is evil, money is dirty, and because obviously that's what you would automatically associate it with. But please carry on, Asia.
So the basically where they went with this is, me as a good person started getting played upon. You want to do the right thing, don't you? And it's kind of like, well, yeah, I do. And I remember I was still told that I was going to go help Jesus, and they brought out this sword, and they said, we're going to do this together. We're going to rid you of the thing that had been hurting you. And again, I had seen that. And so they handed me the sword, and I'm holding it, and I said, I don't want to do this. That was part of what was coming forward. And so then there was this also conditioning and wording of, we're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and this is going to save you. This is going to rid you of this pain. And I still was seeing what was going on, and I wasn't. It's still so hard the emotions that come up and the terror that is there, I'm relating death and blood and sword, and I want nothing to do with it. But I'm also they're also the men are saying, like something completely opposite of what instinctually I want nothing to do with, which is killing this man. But anyway, I was right by him. And
this person that you're now supposed to kill, I want to just clarify that this is Jesus, right?
He's dressed as Jesus. And I knew him also because he not only dressed as, but he had been beat up and had thorns on his head, and they had dressed him up as that too. So,
and this was the person that had hurt you not long before that. So he'd actually raped you and then hurt you. So now the guy asks, do you want to save Jesus? And you obviously say yes. Run through a maze, hearing fighting and shouting in the distance. Complete psycho attack. Wow. And then you go in and these guys are beating up Jesus. And it turns out the Jesus is the one who raped you not long before that and hurt you. So now you are being asked to save the person that hurt you, and that's Jesus. Yeah. So this complete mind twist of Jesus, who's this amazing biblical character, right? And obviously in a child's mind, you're taught all these incredible things about Jesus.
Right.
And now
be able to save you, right? Like the whole thing about Jesus giving his life for us, is it's a very confusing doctrine when over and over and over I keep seeing how Jesus is betraying or betrays or isn't saving me or isn't saving anybody, isn't saving himself. And he's always the weaker of the two. So there's Satan that's dressed in red. There's a guy in red. There's Satan that's dressed in red. And then there's these other men that are in there. And they basically, Satan basically comes over and hands me the sword. And he says, here, we're going to do this together. Very calm and like, I'm here for you. I'm going to support you. And we went over and like put the sword right through the guy. And it was horrible just even to see that. But it was also horrible because I could then start to feel like with the force of what a child could do to kill somebody or to put a sword through them I couldn't have done that, right? But now they're saying, look what you did, look how you did that. And I could feel the blood around my feet. I was barefoot and it was warm and it was
how old were you, Asia?
Yeah. How old was I? That one, I believe I was, I think I was 7 on that one.
So the guy that actually killed, you're saying, and the one that actually hurt you, he was a homeless guy.
Correct.
That they'd gotten off the street. So did they make him hurt you? Is that what they did?
They paid him to do it. Yeah. So there was money exchange. They had paid him to do it. And I had picked up as I was, and I have this fresh in my mind because I just got done reading the session. And one of the things that appealed to him, I'm not going to speak clearly for every person that is homeless. This is not what I'm saying. They can, through whatever programs that are available for homeless people, whatever state assistance, government assistance, there are homeless people that do go and take advantage of any of the health facilities that could be available to them. Like there are places that they can receive help. And so part of that is going to be like mental evaluation. Clearly this man was mentally evaluated to find, like they do that. They have these records. It's not like here's a homeless person and we just, thank goodness we helped another human. Like, I guess this is another part of what the depth of what this is, because in order to understand and profile, they would either have records or they would be watching and they would be appealing to this individual. This guy would have been groomed over a period of time by the same people that he would trust. And now they're saying, and we want you to do this. Like, it's not just find a guy on the homeless, like a homeless man on the street and take him into a ceremony. Like that doesn't make sense, but creating a relationship, doing some grooming, then paying him off, that would make sense. We want you to be mean. We want you to pretend you're Jesus. We want you to pretend that this is what's going on. Your job is to do these things, whatever the list was of the things that he was asked to do. And it appealed to him. I saw that. I was being raped by him. Like, I was being told that it was Jesus. Even he didn't have to say a lot, but there was a lot of actions that were going on. And the men around me that knew all the scripting, that knew what they wanted to have driven into me and the other children there, were the words, this is Jesus. Is he saving you? Is he helping you? No, he's hurting you. Like, it's a very real thing. And this guy, I think, is just feeling like he's part of a very sick program, you know, and any kind of pedophilic, you know, what is it, where they're filming it or whatever. Like, there are just things that are created, and this is the way this one ended up. In the meantime, there's more stuff going on. They use the blood and they wipe it all over them and all over me. And I've got this blood oath that's going on. And that's what his blood was used for afterwards. Nobody drank that blood. I don't think that that blood was at all sanctified for this group. I mean, it was just spilled to cause terror. So not every time when they do ceremony is somebody going to, are they going to be like drinking the blood of that moment? Like, that was part of the ceremony prior. Anyway, like, it's really hard to put it all and condense it all into one thing, but I'm illustrating the fact that self-trust at its basis for victims of SRA is really, really, really messy. It's very, very difficult to trust yourself in a lot of situations. So a lot of people will default into, I just hate making choices. I don't want it. I don't know. What do you think? And I'm not saying that as blanket either. I really don't want people to hear what I'm saying and assume just because I said this, that anybody that says I don't like making decisions has got either SRA in their world or they just don't trust themselves. That's not what this is. But I am saying, for me, there was a lot of anxiety in making choices, and there was a lot of searching for resources outside of myself. What's your opinion? What's your opinion? Is this the best? Is this not? You know, what is going on? And the idea of even being able to say, you know what, I think I'm just going to make a choice and see how this works out, that went nowhere. Like, I could not make that comment, especially as I was going through life. It's different now, but that kind of risk is huge. Me making a choice and seeing how it turns out typically ends up really bad, you know?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Having that inner child, as we were talking about, having that inner child maybe in a loop of, I made a choice, I went to help somebody, it really wasn't who it was, I killed a man, like all of that cycling would have some effect energetically and mentally deep inside of me trusting myself, of me making my own choices. It's so much safer to allow authorities to come in and tell you what's best for you, or to give you the best prescription. Like, this is why we, maybe turn a lot of our, why trusting doctors would be really appealing, why going through a prescribed college program would be, just tell me the classes, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Just tell me how to do this and I'll do it. Like, just give me the steps versus a lot of critical thinking. And so then you get put into a cattle chute, society wise or religious wise, of, you want this end goal, here's what you have to do. And then we basically say yes to putting the blinders on and just following this path because of what we're promised at the end, instead of doing any critical thinking. Like, am I feeling uncomfortable about this? Do I want to sit down and kind of really like reevaluate? No, like where is, and then if you keep getting stimulated and if you keep getting distracted, and if you want to soothe your way out of uncomfortability, that even makes us more available to, oh, we know how to solve that. We know how to make you feel better. Just do this, just take that, just feel this way. Don't look over there. And then they just keep, they're able to continue doing what they're doing. So being able to talk to you and some of the other interviews that I've been able to do, and bringing out a podcast, and I eventually want to, write a book and putting a program together of how to do inner child work. All of that stuff is so valuable. And like you said, you believe, and I believe also, that there will be a lot of SRA victims that are going to be emerging more and more. because the programming is breaking down, because the collective energy is raising, because they're wanting, I think, again, humans are always on a path of healing, and they want to heal. They want to, move themselves forward into this. But there's also going to be resistance to that. This group of cult controllers do not want to lose their masses, and
of course not. With their slaves. So they, so the fight is real, and that's the interesting thing that we're seeing more and more. The struggle is real, when it comes to people coming out, starting to talk about their traumas, starting to talk about their PTSD, starting to talk about the mental health issues, the physical issues. All of these things are not just mental. I mean, we're looking at illnesses like cancer. I mean, any illness is caused through an imbalance of something. And, when, especially, I mean, again, going back to like the 60s and stuff, I mean, I know that birth control in South Africa came out, I think it was 1960 or 61. So we don't know the long-term effects, really, do we? Oh, it's only like, I mean, and that I know because that's my one sister's birth year. So we are now 2 generations since then, 3 babies on the way. We don't know what effect those hormones have had on our offspring and future generations to come. There's all these things that we've got to look at as well and understand that certain things have certainly been put into place to dumb us down and to take advantage and to misuse and control, humanity. That really is the bottom line. I found very interesting, and I'm just going to divert a little bit, but it all relates. You were talking about in the church, there would be the good guys and the bad guys, so to speak. And one day the good guy is the good guy, and the next day is the bad guy. Is that what you're referring to with this the Jesus thing now?
Yes.
That yeah, and just mentioning that, I heard a testimony from, and as everyone here knows, I was accused of being a racist yesterday. Can you believe it? I was so shocked. That's just come into my mind. And what I'm saying is South Africans are generally very shy to talk. And I'm not just talking shy South Africans, but African people in general. I've had several conversations with the possibility of bringing African and African people onto the channel, but they decline, because they're not ready to talk. So I was called a racist because of that. How dare I just have people of my own colors? I was so mortified. Anyway, what I was saying about that was that, one of the testimonies that I heard was from a South African guy as well, very similar to what you're saying. You're the only other person I've heard actually talk about that. And this is in the NG church here in South Africa, the Afrikaans church, the strictest, most hectic church that came here from our Dutch ancestors, right? We call it, NG Kerk. And what they were doing was like how they were pretty much had someone that looked like Jesus with a full-on, whatever what I can say on this program, boy to active, and what he would then rape the child, right? And then later on, he would there because there'd been these ceremonies and things, and then all the deacons, the church elders, whatever they were, would then beat up Jesus because he was such a bad boy. And then the kid would feel so guilty, and then he'd want to go and hold and protect Jesus. And the next day he's at Sunday school or church or something, and all these people are the elders in the church and stuff like this. This is happening in South Africa, right? So a similar type of conditioning in the NG church. I mean, South Africa is right with this kind of stuff,
It is such a classic way to be very bewildering, betraying, confusing, all of that. So just to even witness that kind of violence, for me to witness it, for that testimony that you heard, for that child to witness that too, these people that are leaders. They're the clergy. They're your father. They're your mother.
Yes.
There's the church leadership.
Yes.
They're seeing this kind of violence, and they're on Sunday, they're talking about loving Jesus and having all of this, direction towards Jesus. And yet you had just seen them capable and very active in being very violent, very gruesome. Who do you trust and what do you trust? And then in the meantime,
Exactly.
you're going to demonstrate who it is. Well, you trust us, or you trust, Lucifer, you trust Satan. This is where you want to align your loyalty to, because I have just saved you from this terrible thing that happened. And by the way, where was Jesus? Where was your God? Did your God show up
Exactly.
and help you? Not at all.
Mm.
So all of this is just shredding and severing relationship with deity. And that deity, God, Jesus, anything that feels divine, angels. I mean, they do things around angels. It's same idea. It really penetrates your soul, your human soul. Who do I trust? Well, I'm praying and I'm not getting my answers, so clearly something's wrong with me. Or is there really a God? And like the whole confusion that is created with this. And it's hard to know what to anchor into. So it's easy to get, influenced and blown around. I am going to say that I believe each of us carries a very, very core God spark, and that is never, I have not talked to anybody that's ever been able to be accessed, buried, or locked away, or whatever. But as far as a human soul, a human that even if they're creating and doing heinous things, that is still in there. I feel like everybody, like humans are still reachable as long as you're not, I don't know, it gets nuanced. But the point is, even though that's there, it gets buried, it gets insulated, it gets severed. Like there's things that create an isolation and a separation from yourself, from, and then parts created. So now all of those parts are separate. And like the journey to come to really understanding and being cohesive as a person, as a self, is really, really nuanced. And then finding that and connecting that with the divine and what you trust and what is truth and all of that. It is a lifelong journey. I really don't see that it's not worth doing. Like I see that it's worth and valuable for every person to really dig into learning more and more and more about themselves and trusting themselves and defaulting to that, so that you've got something to work with, and know that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and the mistakes are feedback, because at least you're going to see what's driving you. And I kind of did get a little bit distracted or diverted there. But I really do want to say that the setup is really thorough, and the setup is a continual confusion of who's rescuing you, who's taking you, who's hurting you, who's not. You could even be being raped by somebody and beaten and tortured, and then another person comes in, is another presence is introduced, and suddenly they're coming in, and the person that was just hurting you now comes in as your champion, so you trauma bond to that person. It's an emotional, physical.
Absolute. There's yeah, it's complete. I mean, gaslighting is not the word, but I mean,
No,
it is. Wow, this
it's
poor.
gaslighting. Gaslighting is part of it, but the other thing that they do know, and I wanted to bring this in there, is even though you're under as a victim, you're in those circumstances, and you're under the influence of a substance, of a drug, and trauma, and all of the stuff. They bank on and they count on you hearing all the words they're saying. So if there's, like, I've had circumstances where they have pretended to stab me, right? Like I see the sword or I see the knife and I see whatever, and there is a sensation in my stomach, right? I just earlier drank something and they've timed it, now I'm going to have a bellyache for sure because of what's going on inside of my body. So that's part of it. But it doesn't take much to actually take something cold and pointy and push it into your stomach. At the same time of like, bringing a knife down kind of idea. So the association is, oh my gosh, I've been stabbed. Not to say they don't really do that, but I'm also saying in the pretend, in the creative side of all of this, and then they have all of this blood everywhere, and they're like, oh my gosh, look, she's bleeding, she's gonna die. Even in that traumatic drug state, I'm hearing their words, and all I know is what they're saying, and so then I start taking that in, like I'm bleeding and I'm gonna die, and it's like, bring in the doctor, or bring in Jesus, or bring in who can save this girl kind of idea. And in walks Lucifer, or in walks something dark, And so it's there, and you're suddenly saved, but I was never dying in the first place. However, my body's feeling pain. My body's internally feeling, pain because of the poison that I just drank, or whatever it was to create that gut ache. And the whole scenario, again, is set up for me to hear those words, and you're hearing them. Even if you're coming in and out of consciousness, you're still hearing them. And that's part of how I healed, is I went in and I got the truth. I remembered the words, I remembered the setup, and I got the whole setup. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that wasn't true. This is really what happened. And I got to see it because I had all the information stored, right? We have all that information.
Exactly. Asia, I think you've said something so profound there, that you have all the information stored inside of you, and each and every person. I mean, that just gives me chills. And that is so important to remember, that no matter what has occurred in your life, when you are aligned and you go back to aligning with God, right? And you are in that incredible space of knowing you belong to God. You are created in the image of the divine. There's nothing you don't know, and there's nothing that's not available to you. And through prayer, meditation, patience, and I mean, for a person who hasn't been abused, let me tell you, my inner child was abandoned for a long time, okay? And she can have a vicious little temper, let me tell you. Just the fact that she didn't get what she wanted at a certain time meant that she was reacting. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can imagine when there's someone who has experienced such brutal and severe trauma, how patient and how loving you've got to be with yourself. And it's tricky. It's such a slippery wall you've got to climb up, and you look down, and at any moment you can fall down, and there's nothing to hold on to, and bam, there you feel like you crashed and burned again. But somehow there's a part of you that wants to heal.
Yes.
And if that, you will know that inner calling, and you're going to want to give up on yourself a million times. But even if you feel like crashing into a bag of bones right now, on your couch, on your bed, on your floor, whatever, that's okay. Lie there for 5 minutes, but after 5 minutes, take a breath and get up again. Decide to take the next step forward, because it's available. And if you want it, and if you you can always reach out. There's always people that you can reach out to. Someone you saw, I can't tell you how amazing it's been since I've been on this channel, that people have reached out. I mean, I've had people that have watched me for 2 years, and then suddenly they'll message me and saying, I've watched your aura. I've been watching you for 2 years and your aura hasn't glitched. I'm going, pretty freaking cool, man, that you can see that.
Right.
Because a lot of the SRA victims, right, are trained in these special gifts. So they have the ability to see things like this. And this one particular, it was actually a guy. And he said to me, and I said, well, and I was curious. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, like when people are working in high level, whatever, witchery, no, I'm not going to go into the whole sort of scenario, but they can project their aura to look authentic only to a certain point. So they know how to manipulate the energy, right? So they can keep it there for a while. But you can't authentically keep it there if it's not authentic. You're going to glitch. And anyone who can read an aura is going to see that. So this dude has been watching me just about every day for 2 years, and my aura didn't glitch.
Wow.
And he said to me, I can see, obviously. And I said, oh, what are you telling? I said, are you reading my energy? I said, that's interesting. I'd be interested to know what you're reading. He says, no. It's more just, you can see if you've had a bad day, or, if you're down or whatever, normal human emotions, right? You can pick that up. But you can tell when he can tell if the person's authentic or not. And he had lots of reservations about me in the beginning. But then after watching me for 2 years, he figured out, no, she's authentic. And I've done a lot of work with him, lots and lots of work with him over the last, it's been about 1.5 years now.
Wow.
So
you've said some important things there as well. Just knowing that there are imposters, there are ways to manipulate energies, there are trainings, there are gifts. And we can talk about this another time, but just the fact that you said, it's true. There are gifts that victims of SRA are, and MK Ultra and those kinds of things, that you're evaluated to see what you have a propensity towards, or you can be trained into learning certain things and practice it. And it's all done through like games, here's a game and let's do it this way. There are people out there that really feel like they've got some great gifts, and I would say that they probably do, but I would also ask that you look at what it is and where that began and how that began. And here's where it gets nuanced. If you are an SRA victim, or you are a victim of some kind of training, it's going to be repressed more than likely, and you just have this really cool gift. But if it was created in a manner that was nefarious and sinister, my desire, recognizing that thing, is to not be working from that space, but actually shut that down, like get those memories, rewind that programming, undo, what you need to do there, so that you can come back into alignment and then work from a space that's aligned with God and light with those gifts. So it's just kind of a redirection of what you can naturally do. And the last thing that I want to actually say is, from everything that I want to share, I want to remind people that we're capable of doing this, and we're resilient. And the times that you really feel defeated, feel that. That's a very real emotion. You can feel that for sure. Getting stuck there, or staying there, or finding meaning and purpose there, that would be something to look at, because we really are capable, and we really are resilient, and we can do this. So I just wanted to kind of let people know, it's like, hey, if you're in space,
agree.
Know that.
Because life is all about the meaning that we give it, isn't it? So when we get stuck in our wounds, we become the wound. We give our life the meaning of being wounded. And even though that is indeed a aspect, right, of what your life has been about, one of the things that for me, my fiance was killed in a hijacking, and that was my catalyst to do what I do. Although I've always had the gifts growing up, but that was for me, because after that happened, it was like, what if today was my last day on earth? How would I like to live it, and what would I like to do if I knew? Because it made me realize how soon we can lose someone, and how unexpectedly someone we love can just disappear and be out of our lives. So for me, the meaning I could have given that situation was either to stay the victim and just another situation in South Africa, because I could either then become the victim of a situation like that, which turns you into a villain, and you become that, that's where woundology sets in. You then use that as your meaning for life, right? Or we can turn these things around. For me, there was no option. And it's like I say, when he died for me.
Wow.
Because his spirit is so strong in my existence. There will be moments I smell him, and he has given me so much information over the years, just every now and again. I can't explain it. Anyone who's had someone close to them and who's aware that there's life after death, because I don't believe that we die and go to heaven or hell and that's it. Never. For me, I believe God gives us many opportunities to experience life on earth. And every time the spirit lives on, every time we get a different body in which to do it. And it's like Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4. What about Rocky 66 now, isn't it? Oh, Sly's still alive. Hasn't Sly got grandkids by now in Rocky 66? Are they all boxing? I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that's what it is. And I understand, that through that experience, so we get to continue to experience life. And, we are never, ever given up on. And for me, that got me through those times as well. And to realize that, that situation for me was the turning point in my life in a massive way, because it was in that time I realized I could sink or I could swim. And I chose, and it's because of that I do the work I do today. It's because of that my healing path accelerated in an extremely, massively quick way. God was giving me information that I didn't even know where it was coming from. I'd wake up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just knew I had to write. And then it was like I could see the body in front of me, and I could see how the cells, the mind, everything. So all my work is my own creation. And it's so weird because that was like 20 years ago. Now I'm seeing people say the same thing now that I was saying 20 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm going, nice to see you guys catching up. Sounds arrogant, I know, sorry.
No.
And I've really had to tone myself so down over the years because, I would see something and I would just immediately know and go that, and that. And they go, what? And I go, okay, don't worry. It's all right.
It's all right. It's all right.
We'll talk next time. But it's really an amazing, when we realize that life is such a beautiful opportunity for us to be reborn every single day, be reborn with a new idea and a new version of who we choose to be today.
Yeah.
And I think this is what these people have been trying to dumb us down to. I did an arrow drop a week or two ago where one of the guys was saying about the 21 lizard star seeds just on this side of the galaxy. And when these guys, the reptilians, and when they take over planets, they literally dumb the inhabitants down because they need slaves. That's what they've done here, and it's been done since the 50s, what I'm told, when Eisenhower sold out. But of course, I agree that probably happened. I mean, who knows, it probably happened long before then. But the bottom line is, and what he was saying is that there's one thing that we have, and that's why they're after us, right? That they don't have. That is consciousness, right? We have consciousness that these guys don't have. So as we raise our consciousness, we raise our heart frequency, which then it's like, as we raise, imagine being this beautiful cloud that flies up, right? And then this lead fist of the reptilian trying to bite you, or the lead jaw of the reptilian it can't bite a cloud. It can't. The frequency is different. So we have to aim for that, because then no matter where on this planet we are, and they are, we can share a planet. We really can. But our paths are not going to cross. And that's what I'm saying. So it's like raising our consciousness, starting stuff in communities, sharing, caring, linking arms with each other and standing up together and, just being this amazing community.
I
It's
agree.
really just, yeah, that's how we're going to do this.
This
You know, that's how we're
this is why the inner healing is so important, in my opinion, because
Yes.
the parts
Yes.
of you that do have either the angst, the conditioning, the programming, the whatever that is unseen to you, that can't keep. It's like sandbags on a hot air balloon, right? Like just these sandbags, these different scenarios of trauma, of fear, of anger, you know, and all of them can serve us because we have consciousness, just like what you said. But the things that are unseen, that are really just anchored into our bodies, into our souls, into our aura, all of that, if we don't take the time and don't see it as important enough to take the time to look at and to release and to be aware of, then you're floating. Instead of being able to float high, you're kind of floating at a lower level of consciousness, and more easily accessed, or more easily pushed around, or even anchored. And so the more that we actually can release those things that are not actually natural to us, you know, we don't need to anchor and hold into those things, but cutting away the energies that are like acting like sandbags, so that we can actually be in a neutral place and neutralize ourselves. That can happen. And I do agree with you on that. You know, it is about consciousness. Absolutely. Self-work has to happen to be able to let us link arms in that higher way. Yeah.
And and the first step is forgiveness. Guys, we cannot do this because forgiveness releases resistance. And I'm actually doing an amazing workshop where we talk about all of this at the moment. So these topics are all very close to my heart as well. Anyway, Asia, we've had such fun and amazing time with you again today, and we're going to have you back again. So if you're willing, of course. And I really, really look forward to that. So thank you so much for joining me here on Aquarius Rising Africa. Do you have anything you'd like to say before we move on?
Just encouraging people to really just be aware of where they are. And you just have to start with observation. You don't need to make any decisions. Just become aware of yourself.
Indeed. Indeed. And guys, I'm looking at doing something for overcomers and survivors. So hold the space, hang in there if you are one of those who's really had a battle and you don't know where to turn. We're going to be definitely looking further into that as well. So in the meantime, I want to say to you, thank you so much, Asia, and God bless you. Thank you for taking the time and for being this brave and beautiful soul that you are. We know that you had a horrific time being trafficked through the Mormon Church as a child. And we look forward to more of those stories and stuff in the future as well with you. We just look forward to this journey of exposing and healing tools. And, you know, it doesn't matter what denomination we are, guys. It doesn't matter what denomination you are. You're going to do what resonates with your spirit, okay? So we're going to, at the end of the day, the only thing that heals is love. And when you are coming from a place of love, I don't give a rat's backside what church you go to or whatever. As long as you're not hurting anyone or anything, I'm good with that. Cool. God bless you all, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much for being part of our amazing journey on Aquarius Rising Africa today. We'll see you soon. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm hanging out with Bryce and Catherine tomorrow, and then I'll be doing the arrow drop as well, which will probably be live. So join me for a cup of coffee or tea, whatever it is, or chai, whatever it is. Now I'm speaking rubbish. Okay, guys. Cheers. Take good care. See you soon. Bye.